What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It is Hawk Talk on Melrose. We lied again. We said we weren't going to be back until end of July, but here we are. It's end of May. Tyler, what's going on? We decided let's hop back on. We got a decent amount to talk about today, and we just can't contain ourselves, can we?
No, we got the early morning podcast going. We decided last night that earlier in the week we decided that we wanted to do another one, like you mentioned, and there's too much to talk about, too many positive things to talk about. And last night we were talking, and we're like, you know what? Let's hop on. Let's make some coffee, and
Let's do
let's get
one.
talking about it because there's too many exciting things, and obviously just big news in Iowa football right now, which is crazy because it is the off season and there's still plenty to talk about, which is awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And it helps that unlike last year I got excited for the season, but it wasn't this early. It was more like towards the end of the summer. Like for me, I'm just
Yeah.
so pumped for the season. So here we are. It is May 27th. We're recording this. You guys might not listen to this until maybe more into the week, like Monday or Tuesday. But we are officially, from yesterday anyway, May 26th, we are officially 2 months away from when we start recording once a week leading up to the season. So our plan right now is, and I said this on the last podcast, our last episode, June or July 26th will be our first legit episode where we'll be doing one once a week up leading up to the season, and then we'll start doing twice a week. And we might do one or two more between now and then. Um, I know the last episode we said we were done. We're like, see you guys until July 26th. But so we might do one or two more, just depending on if we have time and if anything else kind of comes out. So, but yeah, we got kind of a wide range of topics today. We'll start off with obviously Gary Barta's situation. We'll get into the Swarm beer that is was announced a couple weeks ago. Also, Iowa Penn State game. The time for that game was announced. What was it? 2 weeks ago already.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that. The other kickoff times, the first 3 weeks are supposed to be announced this week. I think the last thing I saw was on this Wednesday, so May 31st. So we'll just kind of talk about that a little bit. I have a brief overview of the schedule that I kind of want to share with Tyler. We'll obviously save the bulk of that until we're closer to the season, but there's like two things that I kind of, or two or three things I noticed from the schedule that I just kind of want to talk about. We're going to do, which I kind of stole this from 24/7 Sports with David Eichel and Sean Bach, but I just thought it was a cool topic of like, who would you rather have at punt returner, Cooper DeJean or Caleb Brown? So it's a kind of a really good like debate because both, I mean, you can make the argument for both. So we're going to kind of go over that. I'm kind of curious to see what you say, Tyler. Um, and then also like the news of, I don't know if you saw this, Tyler, but Michigan State Penn State game is the last game of the season is going to be played on a neutral site field, which is very weird. So we're going to talk about that as well. So yeah, we got a lot to talk about. Let's start with your favorite, Gary Barta, 80 out. He is retiring on August 1st, so he still has 2 more months left. But some surprising news coming out of Iowa City yesterday.
Yeah. Not my favorite. Not your favorite either.
No,
Uh you're more vocal about it than me, I think, but what is it? 17 he was there for 17 years, is that right?
since 2006.
Okay. Yeah. So around 17 years. Filled with controversy, filled with lawsuits, filled with just I don't know. For me, it's a long 17 years. Good things happened during that time frame, but I feel like it was kind of overshadowed by a lot of the negatives.
Yeah.
And that you can't really have that as the head of you know, the athletic department. And yeah, I don't know. I'm curious more on your thoughts on it, Colin, because I know like you'll dive into a little bit more than me. Um, but for me, just like the biggest thing that is the lawsuits for me. Like you can't have that. It's such a bad look. And what is it, like 4 lawsuits? It's not just one lawsuit. I think it's like 3 or 4. And a lot of money was spent to settle those. And it's like I just feel like where there's some smoke, there's fire. And I'm not saying that there's truth to all of it or whatever, but I mean, it's just not a good look. And I think Iowa fans around, all Iowa fans today or yesterday probably breathed a sigh of relief when the announcement came out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just not. I was never the biggest fan, and really like last year, the whole like just doing nothing about the way we performed on offense. Besides giving Brian Ferentz a weird contract that still makes no sense to me, and I feel like makes no sense to a lot of people going into this year. That's all he did, and I don't know. I just not a fan.
Yeah, I think the negatives definitely outweigh the positives for him, and usually it's the other way around. But um, you're exactly right. I mean, first let's talk about the brief positives. I do think that um, if you look across the board, Iowa athletics, we have been very successful and very consistent. I mean, hell, I have the baseball game on right now behind me. We're one game away from the Big Ten championship game, and Rick Heller, great baseball coach. I mean, he's hired some good coaches. You look at the four major sports of football, men's basketball, women's basketball, wrestling, and the success we've had in all four, and how he's retained all four coaches. I mean, Kirk's been here since '99. Fran's been here since 2010. Lisa's been here since 2000. Tom Brandt's been here since 2006. So that's been successful. And I think another thing is he was really good at, raising money and getting money, and obviously using that. He was the forefront of the facility upgrade for football, the $55 million facility, the north end zone, which was, in my eyes, I mean, has been a tremendous upgrade to Kinnick. It
It
makes Kinnick
has.
look way better. And I can't wait till they do the south end zone. But, that was a $90 million project, and he was behind that. So those were definitely the positives. But yeah, you said it. The lawsuits, over $11 million in lawsuits. And then I think another big one was back in 2020, cutting sports, men's swimming, gymnastics, and tennis, and trying to cut some women's sports as well. But then he had to bring in, because of the lawsuits, he had to bring in women's wrestling. So you just had all that, the negative because of that. And then I think the biggest thing, I told you this, Tyler, I think yesterday when we were just talking about this, is, and I don't think people really realize, is how he's not behind our NIL collective Swarm, which in today's day and age, you got to have a good, and I keep saying this, you got to have a good NIL to do anything. And when
Yeah.
he doesn't even have a conversation with Brad Heinrichs, who's the head of NIL collective, who's done a tremendous job, and we'll talk about more about him later when we talk about Swarm Beer. The fact that he's never talked to him or even tried to talk to him, and Brad's tried to, like Brad said, he's like, it's very frustrating that the athletic department has not been behind us in any of this, and that is so frustrating that Gary has not tried to form some sort of relationship with him and with the collective. I don't know if it's just stubbornness, if it's just him not wanting to. I have no idea. But that stuff kind of pisses me off. And then you kind of add what you were saying, how, with Brian Ferentz, does nothing about that. He just kind of lets it go, kind of sweeps it under the rug, right? And then he does something just out of your mind with the whole, like, you got to score 25 points. What are we doing here? So yeah, negatives definitely outweigh the positives. And I'm glad he's gone. I just hope, sometimes it's like, be careful what you wish for. I just hope we can find someone that can kind of,
Well,
have all these controversies. And then also, and like I said, a big thing for me is, I just hope the AD, whoever the AD is can back up our NIL. I know it just sounds kind of like
yes.
a weird thing to say, but like, I'm telling you, we gotta have a good NIL, else we are not gonna be good in the major sports. And for what we've done, like what Swarm has done, what Brad Heinrich has done without the athletic department support, has actually been almost like, it's been phenomenal. And can you imagine how much better it would be if you had the athletic department support? So
Yeah, I
just
mean,
my 2 cents.
this is the day and age that we live in now, Colin. So does Gary Barta want our team to look like it did last year going forward every year? I'm confused. Because without NIL, you're not getting Cade. You're not getting Caleb Brown necessarily. I know, like, again, part of it is players recruit players. I understand that. But these guys are going to get paid to come here. And
Yeah.
if you're not going to support that as the athletic director, it's like you said, it's just kind of a shame because it's like I said, this is the life we're going to start living.
Yeah.
This is the new age of college football. You know, the
And
days of just recruiting based off of because they love for Iowa. I mean, a lot of it is still going to be the tradition and stuff like that, but guy guy guys are going to go to the highest bidder. I mean, that's really some of
yeah,
that is what it's going to come down to.
not only that, but people don't realize that, like, if you have a really good player that, let's say you recruit him out of high school and he comes to like Iowa, for example, and he ends up being really good. If we don't have a good NIL, he could leave too. So I'm just like, here's an example, like Caleb Johnson, right? He was a 3-star.
Yeah,
He obviously comes to Iowa because he's not getting heavily recruited. He comes to
sure.
Iowa, does really good freshman year. He could technically leave just like
Yep,
that and go
yep.
somewhere to a bigger school. So like you got to also think about that, like retaining players, like retaining your best players. So not only do you want to bring in players with NIL, but you also would want to retain some of your players with NIL. So yeah, NIL is big time. And when you have Gary Barta, who's sitting here, not even have a conversation with Brad
Right.
Heinrichs, is just absolutely insane. So, and then
Yeah,
yes,
you
everything.
got to have an AD that 100%. That's got to be the number one thing I feel like is they've got to be able to support and back the NIL
Yep.
collective and make that a priority because, like I said, that's where we're headed. So this is the new age of college football, and yeah, we can't live in the past. We have to be forward thinking, and we have to be able to kind of adapt. And this is where we're at. So
Yep.
hopefully, we
Yeah.
find someone that is capable of doing that.
That is behind all that. It's just funny because like a week ago when I saw that about, I think David Eichel had
Well, there was
or
rumblings. Yeah.
tweeted out. Well, he tweeted out about Gary, about how Gary had formed no relationship with the Swarm, and I sent that to someone and I just said, can Gary just leave? And it's just funny how
Yeah.
like a week later he's gone. Thank God. So yeah.
Do we know the final determining factor of why he's resigning, or was he like forced that? I mean, I don't.
No,
Well, I
I
guess
have
I don't
no
know.
I have
Yeah,
no idea. I don't know if maybe he was like under, maybe he was a little bit kind
pressure.
of
Yeah.
pressured to kind of, I have no idea. Um,
Hmm.
I know he's 59, so he's technically not, he's not really retirement age yet, but at the
Yeah.
same time, 59, I mean, a lot of people that are well established can retire at that age. And so I don't know, maybe he just wants to be done. Maybe it's just became too stressful for him. And rightfully so. When you have 4 or 5 different lawsuits totaling 11 some million and you have all this other stuff, yeah, it can be a little stressful. So,
Yeah.
I have no idea, but yeah, let's transition now. Enough with Gary Barta because he just annoys me. Let's get on to, since we're talking about NIL, Swarm beer coming out here this summer, which I think the cans look freaking dope. I just hope that the beer, because like for me, I'm not a huge craft beer guy. Like I can drink it. You know me, I like Exile Ruthies. But you get like above that, and
Yeah.
it's like,
I got to stay on the lighter side.
yeah,
I'm not a dark beer guy.
nope. Or if it's like too hoppy, like I just can't do
Yeah.
it. So I'm really hoping that this beer is great. But what a great, like, this
Idea.
was just a great idea. And I'm so glad Exile is backing us with this. And I read something because I was kind of surprised. I'm like, God, with Exile doing this, it is kind of a major decision for Exile because you're gonna, which I'm not saying like every fan, like Iowa State fans just gonna stop drinking Exile, but you're gonna have some that are like, okay, they're supporting Iowa, but they're not supporting Iowa State. I'm done drinking their beer. You're gonna have people like that. I mean, it's just so like
Right.
they're gonna lose some of their base a little bit, I would say, because of that reason. Now, I think it's kind of stupid. It's like, well, just don't support the Swarm beer. I mean, you can drink the other Exile beers, but you are gonna have some fans, which I guess rightfully so. So, but from what I've read is owners of Exile are big Iowa fans. So that's kind of the reason why this whole thing kind of started.
Yeah.
And I just think, yeah, I think it's awesome. And I think you shared me the quote of like, if it becomes as popular as the Exile Ruthie for them, it's going to generate hundreds of thousands of dollars for this collective, which is huge. And I know, like, you were saying and couple weeks ago about, as of right now in your life. And it's for a lot of people where it's like, being able to donate, monthly, it's just kind of right now because you have other things that you have to worry about. You just got a new job, you got other things to worry about. And there's a lot of people like that. So having at least this to be able to support this from time to time, I think it's awesome. I think it's great. And, night before the games or tailgates, buying a case of Swarm beer, or, if you're out in Des Moines, you go to Exile, go have, a beer on tap. So I just think
Right.
it's awesome. I'm definitely looking forward to it. I almost want to make the drive to Des Moines here in the next month just to try it out at Exile, because I saw it's going to be out at Exile only until the end of July. So yeah, I'm all for this.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I'll definitely. I'm the type of guy. It's like, you know, hell yeah, I'm gonna go buy a case of Swarm beer and get ready for the tailgate the day of. So it's like it's such a great and creative idea. And yeah, I mean, I shared that tweet with you. It's like it should be generating a ton of money because there's gonna be every Iowa fan is Iowa is known for drinking beer. Like
Yep, exactly.
so it should go over, extremely well. And
Especially
that is
if it's a light beer, because I know
right.
there's a lot of people like me that don't like the
Yeah,
crafty,
100%.
you know.
If it's I've tried it. It's like I can't. Like I've tried Guinness. I can't do it. I just can't do it. I can't stomach it. I'm just more of a lighter beer guy in general. So if it and I heard it's a golden ale, so I'm not well versed in the beer industry, but it's like I'm pretty sure it's going to be a lighter beer. So
Yeah.
um it should go over well. And yeah, like I'm not a huge fan of Exile Ruthie, but um I definitely can tolerate it. And
I want to
hell, if
say
that's
from
how
what
I can
I've
support
read,
Iowa, I'll be buying a Swarm beer.
I read that it's going to be lighter than like a Ruthie is
Okay.
from what. So yeah, I think it's going to be, which I think is a great idea from them too, to do that, where it's like,
Yeah.
start off with like a lighter beer, because that's where because a lot of people in the state of Iowa like Busch Light, right? They like, the domestic light beers, and so, or like
Yep.
Coors Light, whatever. So you kind of want to do that. Now I think down the road it'd be cool if so you have the black can,
Yeah.
have that, as certain, and then maybe have like a yellow can, which the yellow can should be like the lighter one, and then the black can could be like your darker, because there are people out there that do like
Yeah.
crafty dark beer, and I could see that down the road, them coming out with two different types, like more of a lighter one, more of a darker one. But
Yep.
for right now, I'm glad that they're sticking with, like a golden ale. Yeah, with the Swarm, just one quick thing, it definitely did not start out very good. Our NIL collective right away was not good at all, but it is, and thanks to Brad Heinrichs, has definitely upticked. And I think it's, as of right now, we're in a really good position. From last I read, I don't know how many. I think we only have over 2,000 members, which are paying the monthly, um, you know, donation, or maybe yearly donation, or whatever. And someone made a good point that if we could get 10,000 members, which seems like a lot, but if you take like Kinnick Stadium, 70,000, so it's less than 10% of that, of the stadium. If you can get 10,000 members to do a monthly or whatever, that would be a minimum of $200,000 a month. And that's just minimum, because there's going to be some people that are going to donate more than the $20 a month. You're going to have some that do like the
Right.
$50 a month. So that's minimum $200,000 a month. You take that then times
Yeah.
12 months, and you're over $2 million, um, which would be huge. But for right now, where we're at, it's only going to get more and more. But you
Yeah.
have that, you have now the Swarm beer, which they're going to generate, 20% of the sales, which is a lot. They have other things that they do throughout the year that, fundraisers, different things like that. So we're definitely in a good spot, I think, for
Is
Iowa.
that real quick? I was just gonna ask: were we, you said at the beginning we weren't anywhere near where we are now with the NIL collective. Is that because we weren't, you know, big fans of the NIL to
I
start
think we were
off with?
just, late to the party.
Behind the eight ball? Yeah.
Yep, kind of
Okay.
just late to the party. And then we had this Brad Heinrichs guy kind of step in, and doesn't even live in Iowa. He lives in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and he's
Yeah.
just been awesome with
Yeah.
this. And just seems like a cool dude. Like I said, I have 24/7 sports account, and he's a member on 24/7, so he's constantly in the boards, answering questions people have, because he obviously has inside scoop of a lot of stuff. And so he just seems like a really cool dude, and obviously what he's done is tremendous. And but I think, and like he mentioned this, and I think it's so true. Like with Iowa for football, for example, like we're still going to go out and recruit and find, what we've always done for high school. And speaking of high school recruiting, man, like you look at like the 24 class, the 25 class, even the class we just had, this timetable between 2022 to, well, hopefully, all the way up to 2025, the way it's looking, might be one of the best years for recruiting that Iowa's kind of ever had under Kirk Ferentz. And so you have that. We're going to keep doing that and, develop those players. And every year we always develop a few players that turn out to be nobody to somebody. And so really what the NIL is going to be for is, like every year, what we did this year, what holes do we have on the offense and on the defense? And let's go out and let's get 6 to 8 guys that are pretty damn good. And let's fill in some of these gaps. Let's fill in some of these holes. And when you have a good NIL program, you're going to be able to do that. So we should be, that should be great. You got, the positions of need. And then you got the positions where like we feel really confident because like we have this really good player like Cooper DeJean or, whoever. And then, okay, this position, we really need a player. Let's go out and get a guy like Cade, right? So if we can continue with this NIL, it's going to help with that. And not only for football, but then also for, other sports like basketball. Like, and Brad said it a couple of weeks ago where as of right now, we can't really support the basketball program yet because we're not quite, we're doing good, but it's mainly for football just because we're not quite there. And when you only have 2,000 members, it's better than nothing. But, right now it's mainly for football. Obviously his hope is at some point, we can start using some of that funding for basketball, which at the end of the day, like I want, as much as I love football, like I still want our basketball program to do good. It makes the wintertime go by so much faster. And obviously during the middle of a basketball season, like, I'm, right now it's just like, when it's off season, I care less about basketball, but when it's in the middle of the season, like I want my basketball team to be good. So yes. And this year, like you look at, we didn't really do much in the off season, and it's mainly because of that. We just don't really have the NIL that we do for football, for basketball. And hopefully at some point we can get there. So I don't know.
Yeah. That's a good point. You kind of forget that it is mainly for football, and you, like you said, as we continue to, push, make the NIL, more of a priority. Hopefully, like you said, we can get there.
Yep, for sure. All right, let's talk a little Iowa then for the schedule. Iowa, Penn State. I was almost going to make an instant reaction like a couple weeks ago when this came out because I was pretty pumped. CBS night game, week 4. Hopefully at that point Iowa's 3-0. Hopefully, knock on wood, and then Penn State should be 3-0. Be a big game, whiteout game, unfortunately, but
night game,
let's just hope we do what we did in 2009, whiteout game at Penn State. We went in and
true.
We took care of business. But it's going to be this game, regardless of what time it was going to be our toughest game on the schedule. So it's just like whatever. You bring in the white game, it's going to be even tougher. But I just think it's sweet because like we win the last time, CBS, like the
new TV deal.
Yeah,
it's awesome. I love the new TV deal. I love because like that. Primetime game. Oh man, I know. And me and you and a couple of buddies will be down in Phoenix, Arizona at that time. We're doing a little guys trip for the weekend, and so we'll be watching from Phoenix. And man, like you said, it that'll be here before you know it too. Like we're doing this podcast right now, and it's May 27th, and before you know it, it'll be game week in Happy Valley, and we'll be freaking out like before you know it.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not expecting much. Like, going in that game, we're going to be obviously underdogs.
Yeah. But Penn State's got a great football team this year.
They do.
They're projected to be very good.
Yeah, they got
very good.
Probably the best set of running backs potentially. Michigan, you could go, but really good running
Right.
backs. Obviously quarterbacks, really good. Defense is outstanding. Yeah, like they are going to be very tough this year. So yeah, I mean, but you never know. Like you never know what could happen, and
Right.
um, just a national televised game on CBS is big time, and you just got to take care. Just hopefully we can go in
Yeah.
and at least not get embarrassed. Like that. That's the only thing I hope for, because like I said, I'm expecting this a loss. Like, and when we come July and August, when we do our season predictions, like I'm sure you will have this as a loss. I will have this as a loss, and 98% of Iowa football fans will have this as a loss. And at the end of the day, it's not a big deal if we do lose this game, because it's not in a West Division game. As long as you go undefeated in the West Division, you can lose one or two games
Yeah.
from the East Division. And thankfully, we don't our two East Division games this year, or three, I should say. Well, you have Penn State, but then our other two are both home games. Michigan State, who I don't think will be very good this year, and then Rutgers at home. So you can afford to lose this game. Now, yes, you're probably going to start 0-1 in the Big Ten, which kind of sucks, because you kind of hate digging yourself, in a hole and trying to get out of it. But it's not the end of the world if we lose this game. I just don't want to get smoked, right? I don't want to get embarrassed on national TV. That's the only thing I hope for.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be a measuring stick game to see where we stack up against,
It really will be.
the powers of the Big Ten in general. And so it's exciting, and obviously, kind of nerve wracking for a lot of reasons. Like, we have a new offense this year. Like, are we going to be able to showcase that? Like, that's my, like, and we'll talk about all that, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that, hopefully, like, yeah, hopefully this team can, compete in a game like that.
The first
So,
the first 4 weeks, and I know this is kind of cliche, like you can say this for any team. The first 4 weeks will definitely determine like who we are, because week 2 you go on the road at Iowa State, and even though Iowa State, I don't know, like it's hard to predict. I've done a lot of research with this Iowa State football team, and obviously there's some rumors going around that their quarterback might be out, some other players might be out because of the whole gambling situation. I don't know if that's true or not. But regardless, how good is Iowa State going to be? I don't know. I don't think they're going to be that good, but going on the road at Iowa State is never easy. And I don't care how good or bad they are, or how good or bad we are. It's never easy. So you got that. And then you also like just get done with the rivalry game, win or lose. Then you have to go back and play a MAC team, Western Michigan, a week before one of your biggest games of the year, a night out game on CBS. So like that game like might be a little tricky, even though, we should easily win. Could be a little bit of a tricky game because you're just coming off an emotional game, win or lose, especially if you win, very emotional. You win, Cyhawk game, and then you're literally dead sandwich into a spot where then the next week you are playing arguably your biggest game of the year. And then you go on the road at Penn State and have to play on the road again. So like first 4 weeks really will determine like, okay, what is this team made of?
Yeah.
And are we capable of doing what we think we could do and, make it to the Big Ten championship game? So be definitely interesting, to say the least.
100%. Yeah. It's your prototypical sort of trap game, look ahead game that we always talk about, that Iowa, potentially faces every year. We always kind of, and there's a few of them, obviously throughout the season, but yeah, you make a great point. Cause like, that's the thing with Iowa State, throw out the stats. It's a rivalry game.
Exactly.
And anything can happen. So hate that game deep down in my heart. I hate that game because it's always like, well, on paper, this year on paper, Iowa's supposed to beat Iowa State, but that doesn't really mean much.
No, it doesn't.
It really doesn't. So,
yeah, it'll be definitely will be interesting. So later this week, and people listening might, listen to it, but on Wednesday, apparently this is when the kickoff times for the first 3 games will be announced. So by then we will at least know the first 4 weeks, because we already know about the Penn State game. So the first 3 weeks will be announced. Just briefly, I think the first game could potentially be a night game on BTN. I don't know if that's entirely going to be accurate or not, but I'm looking at the football schedule right now for week 1. Nebraska, Minnesota, they play on Thursday night, so you wipe that game away. Friday night, like always, Michigan State always plays that first week on Friday night.
Do they have like a contract or something, or is
I
that
I don't
just by
understand.
chance? Because it's every year now.
Yeah, it's every year they always play Friday night, so they play Central Michigan. So you don't have to worry about that. And then on Saturday, West Virginia and Penn State that's already slotted for the 6:30 game on NBC, I believe. I think that game's on NBC. So then that leaves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That leaves 8 more games. You have Ohio State, Indiana, which will probably be on like it's not gonna be the Fox noon game because I think you said that Fox noon already has that
I believe it's
TCU, Colorado.
TCU, Colorado.
So
I'm
Ohio
pretty
State,
sure.
Indiana, and the whole TV contracts. Once again, I get
Yeah.
very confused because are we technically is no Big Ten team gonna be on ESPN
Yeah.
at all this year? Like ABC,
I don't know.
ESPN two. I don't know. I'm just because I thought all this started in 2024, but apparently it's starting a year early because we're on CBS.
Yeah. Right.
So I get very confused with that. So that really leaves you have 3 slots on FS1 and you have 3 slots on BTN. And so, yeah, Iowa could definitely playing Utah State could definitely be because you look at some of these other teams like Maryland, Towson, Purdue, Fresno State, Wisconsin, Buffalo, Iowa, Utah State, just because Utah State's a little bit better than Towson, right? And some of these teams. So it could definitely be the night game that first week on BTN.
Right.
I just hope it's not 11 a.m. game. I hate the first game of the year being 11 a.m. It's always hot, and I hope it's either an afternoon game or a night game. I know last year, I think wasn't the South Dakota. I think that game was 11 a.m. Just sucks.
It was 11 a.m.
First game of the year.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's almost like you almost feel like you don't get enough time to enjoy it because you're so excited. It's the first week, no matter who you play, right? And you want more time to be able to enjoy it. And so yeah, with a later game, that means more tailgating, more getting excited, just to makes it for a longer day, which is nice.
Yeah. Iowa State game, I believe that game will probably be on I could see that being on one of the ESPN networks, whether it's ESPN2, ESPN, maybe ESPN, ESPNU. I know 2 years ago when both teams were in the top 10, it was on ABC. It was a 2:30 afternoon game on ABC, but I don't think that's going to happen this year. Do not think that will happen, but I could see that game being ESPN kickoff. I'm hoping that game's not a night game.
Hoping for an afternoon game.
Yes, I am too. Because number one, I mean, just with the night game, it'd just be, the atmosphere there would be crazy. And it's going to be crazy regardless. But I just think it'd be even more tough for Iowa. It's gosh, you have to go on the road rivalry game at night. It's so, and then that week 3 game versus Western Michigan, that is just screams 11 a.m. on Big Ten Network or
100%.
FS1. I could definitely see that being the case. So I'm really hoping because honestly, chances of a night game this year, once we get more towards the middle of the season, end of the season, very slim. So we might have to hope that either Utah State or Western Michigan is a night game because you get into, the bulk of the season, Purdue, Minnesota. It just might not happen. It might be the Minnesota game might be that afternoon's time slot on Fox or whatever. And so the chances start kind of dwindling down as the year goes on. So I really hope that first game's a night game. It'd just be cool. It'd just be a long ass tailgate. It's night. It won't be as hot then because always that first couple games are always just so hot. It's always so humid. And so night game would be perfect.
And you said that comes out Wednesday?
I believe Wednesday. I saw an article. Yeah, May 31st. So we'll see. I'm surprised it hasn't came out yet. Usually by now, there are some games past couple of years. It's usually middle of May
because of the new TV contracts.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
not
taking forever. So then the first 4 games are announced, and then the rest of the season it will be announced once we get into the season, it will be a week or 2 before, and that's when we'll know
right.
And that's how it always goes. But the first 4 will at least be announced, which is good. So, I guess one more thing too. with the schedule, I was gonna just kind of share quick. When I was doing this last week, when I was getting ready, typing in all the schedules on the Excel spreadsheet for all the teams to look at their over under, which we will do when the season gets closer. For Iowa, I kind of noticed this, and I was explaining this or talking to you last week about this. Is a couple of things that I noticed kind of right off the bat is we only play one team off a bye, or excuse me, like one team off a bye, and that's Minnesota. So we have to play at Wisconsin. They get a bye week. So last year there was two teams that we faced that were coming off a bye, and that was Purdue and Ohio State. So and looking back, like at last year, I chalked up both games as losses because I was like, okay, until we beat Purdue. But then not only that, but they were coming off a bye, and some reason our offense was actually decent that day, and we actually won.
For the first half.
For the first half. So this year we only played one team off a bye, which I think is big time. I mean, that's always big. It's something that you don't really take into account. And then another thing too, I didn't really realize this, but we technically only have 4 away games this year because that Northwestern road game is the game at Wrigley Field, which might be more Iowa fans there than Northwestern fans. And if it's not, it'll be very close to 50-50, like very close.
I could honestly see more Iowa fans.
Yeah,
100%.
So, I mean, that I don't really consider that a road game. I mean, I do just because obviously you have to travel there and stuff like that. But
right.
When you talk about like the crowd and stuff, like there might be more Iowa fans there. If not, it's going to be damn close.
Yep.
So you got really 4 road games, true road games. Another thing I really noticed too with where the bye's positioned at, it's positioned right before November. And I always say November is championship month. Like it's do or die. It's, where teams go on to bigger and better things and where teams go to die. And we get 3 games before we play Nebraska: Northwestern, neutral site game, home against Rutgers, home against Illinois, and then at Nebraska. For the most part, as of now, unless things change and, these teams actually end up being better than what maybe I think they will be or whatever, it's a fairly easy November to kind of, hopefully at that point we are looking like, we are the team to beat, or, we're looking like, okay, the Big Ten championship game is in clear sight. We just got to take care of business. It's a pretty manageable month of November for us.
Yep. It's like you said, it's almost like it's the perfect way to end the season, right? Like when you get, I mean, let's be honest, those are going to be some of the lesser teams in the Big Ten right there.
Yeah.
And like you said, you take care of business and earlier on to the middle part of the season, and you can see that Big Ten championship in sight. That's a really good sign that you've gotten through the bulk of the schedule, and you can end it with not as hard of teams, like if we're going to be honest. So yeah, that's really an ideal way to end the season for sure.
Yeah. And
on paper,
going into that bye week, we at that point we would face at Wisconsin, at Penn State, Minnesota, at Iowa State. So yeah, I think we'll go into that bye knowing like, okay, we are in prime position, or we'll go into that bye knowing like, knowing like, well, this wasn't the year, because at that point we could easily have losses at Iowa State. We could easily have a loss at Penn State, Wisconsin, maybe a home game against either Purdue or Minnesota, whatever. So if we can go in that bye only having like 1 loss, we're looking A-okay. 2 losses, still looking good, but probably will have to win out. 3 losses, I think it's like, wow, what happened? So just have to wait and see. But I do like where that bye week. I always like when the bye week's like dead smack in the center of the season. But I do like where it's like the month before or the week before November. And once again, November football is always the biggest month. So getting that bye week in there and then facing 4 teams that on paper, now Nebraska game, we might not be favored. And I really don't know what Nebraska's gonna be like this year. They're always so hard to predict, but 4 teams that you can win. We're not playing Michigan. We're not playing Ohio State. We're not playing Penn State.
This is the year, right? The schedule lines up for you again. So you really gotta take advantage of it.
Yeah. One other thing too, I wanted to mention, and I just thought of this too, with where Penn State is centered at. This is another thing I noticed was while we get to play Western Michigan the week before, which I was explaining like 20 minutes ago, might be a bad thing because it's sandwiched in between two big games, but we get to play Western Michigan, who we should take care of business. And by the fourth quarter, we should have our backups in. Meanwhile, Penn State week 3, which I'm surprised they already play a Big Ten opponent week 3. Usually that's still non-conference. They have to go on the road and play Illinois, which Illinois won't be in. Well, they might be as good as they were last year, but I don't think on paper they're going to be as good. They obviously lost Chase Brown, their best running back. They lost that really good corner.
Witherspoon.
Yep. And then one of their other secondary players was drafted in the 3rd round. So they lose some good players. They also lose their defensive coordinator. He's off to Purdue. So will they be as good? I just don't think so, but they're still going to be a Brett Bielema coach team. You always know they're going to be tough, and it's going to be that game might be a physical on the road game. I think that's advantage Iowa. Now I don't think
100%
because I don't think we're going to win now, but that definitely increases our percentage a little bit because of that reason.
Yeah, I mean Penn State's going to have to spend a little bit more energy to try to beat Illinois the week before. So I think it's not like they play it's a Big Ten game. I mean, it's going to require it's going to be tougher, right? You don't get that cupcake opponent before Iowa.
Exactly.
So
meanwhile,
definitely
we
advantage
do.
Iowa.
Yep.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, when you're talking a Big Ten football game, it's always, I don't care who you play, but especially like against like Illinois, it's going to be very physical. It's going to be very.
Where's that game at?
It's at Illinois.
Yeah.
So they have to go on the road at Illinois.
Oh, yeah. No, that's not ideal. That's not ideal. And like you just said, what does Illinois have to lose in that game? They're going to go all out.
Yeah.
So, for sure, advantage Iowa. And like you said, what does it really mean right now? Probably nothing. But when you're just talking about, how to get prepared for that game, it's like, yeah, you just can't look ahead for sure.
Penn State, man, has a kind of a tough schedule out of the gates. They have to play West Virginia at home.
Oh, yeah.
Then they play Delaware, which, that'll be an easy win. And then they play at Illinois and then Iowa. So, but they are going to be a good team. But they are also starting a brand new quarterback who I think is going to be really good. But it's also, this is his first legit, season. So, yeah.
Yep.
So you have to, go play against West Virginia and then 2 weeks later go on the road at Illinois. Then Iowa.
I mean, in that you're in the East in the Big Ten. I mean, it's a gauntlet. It is every year in the East. That's for sure.
It is.
And like a team like Penn State's usually the team that gets kind of screwed over in that sense.
Yeah, you always have like Michigan, Ohio State, and then it's
like Penn State finishes with a great year, but it's like they won the Rose Bowl last year, so they're expected to be right there with Michigan, Ohio State this year.
Yeah,
that's kind of the expectation.
I think this year is a year where it's going to be Michigan or Penn State. I think Ohio State's going to be good, but their schedule's tough, and obviously, new quarterback, and I mean, obviously the wide receivers are amazing. But I think it's going to come down to Michigan, Penn State this year. I really do. Definitely Michigan. I mean, Michigan.
Very well could.
I saw something where they have like 17 or 18 like All-American preseason All-Americans like on there. It's like, holy, that's like almost the entire fucking starting line or offense and defense. It's 24 players or no, 22 players. So you're almost at 22 at 17. So it's like, holy shit.
I didn't even know that.
I'm glad we don't play them this year. Well, we could potentially play them in the Big Ten championship game, hopefully. But all right, one more thing too, or I guess 2 more things, but the last thing we won't spend much time on. I just want to hear if you had a pick today. Like I said, I don't know if you read the article. I'm sure you didn't, because I don't think you have 24/7. Cooper DeJean or Caleb Brown at punt returner, if you had to pick between the two.
I mean, for me, I feel like I know what I have with Cooper, and I'm a big believer in utilizing what you have, however you can do it. So he's a corner now. It's like we've always, like last year, we threw out the ideas like maybe he should play offense. He's so athletic, and it's like, well, if he can't do that, put him at returner. You've seen what he does with the ball in his hands when he's returning it for a pick 6, right? And think, what is it, the Rutgers game last year, I think?
Yeah, Rutgers game, pick 6.
Just the way he was able to just maneuver around guys when he has the ball in his hands, he's electric. And I feel like when he returned the ball last year, he did really good. I don't have the stats in front of me, but he's a great returner. And I mean, the only thing I would say is I haven't seen Caleb Brown yet. I know he was expected to be the returner at Ohio State this year before transferring, I think I read. So clearly capable, and the dude's athletic and fast and all that. Personally, with the way Iowa does it, you have 2 guys back there, put them both back there.
For punt
I know
return?
one's like, oh, sorry, punt return. I'm thinking kick return. My bad.
So,
what about kick return though?
See, and I think kick. So this I think this was just for punt return, and I truly believe with Iowa, and it seems like they always kind of do this. Well, maybe not necessarily, but like I could see like yeah, I mean that is true. It's like yeah, put them both back at kick return. Why not?
And then just one of them at punt return.
Yeah, because last year it was Caleb Johnson, and
it was Caleb.
I just don't know if I really like that. Having your starting running back as your kick returner, I don't know. I'm not really a fan of that. He's already getting banged up on every play. Yeah. Another player that you could put out at kick returner, not punt returner, because I agree. For punt, it needs to be either Cooper or Caleb. Another player, which I've read, he's actually really fast, is Alec Wick. And talk about a guy that he's not going to play much. So I want guys too that are like you can risk it, right?
Right.
And so like he's another
it's high risk, high reward type of like or no, low risk, high reward.
High reward.
Where it's like, yeah, if he gets hurt or something happens, it's like, well, that's not a starter. And a guy like Alec Wick will probably try to make the most of his opportunities when he can get them. So
exactly. So I guess for me, I think
I was talking about returning in general, but
yeah,
your question in terms of punt returner, I mean, man, flip a coin, I feel like. But I personally, I know what I have with Cooper and how athletic he is.
Yes, I agree.
I would want him, but
you could make the argument too, and I agree with you. So I was going to go with Cooper too. I was like curious to see what you would say. I didn't know. I mean, because like I said, it's a 50-50 split for probably most people. A lot of the major argument's going to be, well, we're already lacking depth at corner. We don't want Cooper to get hurt. But you can also make the case with Caleb Brown. We don't have much depth at wide receiver, and we need Caleb Brown. Like, we can't afford for him to get hurt. We can't really afford for any of our star receivers to get hurt. Now, if you have like a guy, bottom of the depth chart, he gets hurt, it's not. But like I'm talking like some of the main guys. So you can make the case for him too. So at that point, then it's just like you just gotta. I mean, sometimes in life you just gotta just do it and hope that it just doesn't happen.
Right. And you're not going to throw somebody out there that's just not good, but we have them out there because we don't want our starter to get hurt. Well, then it's like, then we're just wasting our opportunities.
Exactly. So for me, I would pick Cooper because, like you said, you know what you're going to get. I think I saw a stat where he had, 10 punt returns or something for like 170 yards.
65, 70 yards. I saw that. Yeah.
So
he literally averaged like 16, 17 yards a punt return.
Yeah. And, the thing is, so like not every single punt, I mean, because sometimes the hang time, things like that, yeah, you're going to have to fair catch it, or yes, the minute you catch it, you're going to get demolished. That's how it goes sometimes. But those times where Cooper has a couple seconds to establish himself, he is going to make a guy miss, and he is going to get you at least 10 yards. Like, just guaranteed. It's just who he is. And with Iowa, and maybe not so much this year, knock on wood, but yards are so valuable for us. Like, we need those yards. Now, hopefully this year with our offense, hopefully better, saying hopefully, maybe we won't, maybe it won't be as valuable as like this last year, but with Iowa, you always want that. And
that's the thing. It's like, what team wouldn't want to start in great field position, right? I mean, that's just such a huge fact. I'm not saying he has to score whoever's back there has to score a touchdown. I'm just saying, like you said, instead of being at the 20, could be at the 35.
35, which is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, man, like, it's not talked about enough, but our special teams this year, just, punter, Torrey Taylor.
Yeah.
Kicker, Drew Stevens. Punt returner, either Cooper DeJean or Caleb Brown. Kickoff return, like I would go with Cooper and Caleb, both guys. I mean, like we are going to have a great special teams. I said on the last episode, it wins you games and it loses you games. And
100%.
when you have a really good special teams, it is going to win you a few games.
And
So,
a great special teams coach. I think LeVar Woods is a stud. So
he is.
Last year we talked about it at nauseum. It's like if Torrey's not pinning you inside the 10, it's like
I hope we don't have to rely on Torrey much this year. I hope that is the case. I love Torrey, but
no kidding.
I hope we don't have to rely on him. Because if that's the case, then that means if you tell me right now that we won't have to rely on Torrey as much, that means our offense is actually doing something. But
it was thrown out there last year where it's like punting is winning for Iowa, and it's like it's a joke at the time, but it's like I don't want that to be the story with Iowa again. Right?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah,
because last year, I mean, it just almost got embarrassing. Like, hearing that and like punting's win, the shirts were made, and it's just like, okay, like, what are we doing here? Like, it's just
like, are we really resorting to that? Yeah, exactly.
I know it's a joke, but it's just like, gosh,
right.
It's like, no, fucking figure out your offense. We don't have to rely on our punter so much.
Oh shit.
But also, I think too, I was reading an article, and this is just like very random, but like, talk about defense, can our defense be as good as they were last year? I don't know. And we'll just have to wait and see. But the one thing is, if our offense is a little bit better, it should help our defense out a lot more, where maybe our defense will look, because they won't, because you think about last year, all the times that they were put in the worst situations, they were constantly out on the field. Like, the fact that our defense was that good last year because of all that was just amazing. So if our offense can be a little bit better this year, or hopefully it takes a huge improvement, like, our defense should be probably as good, because they won't have to work as hard.
We went 8-5 last year?
Yes.
Including a bowl game?
Yes, I believe so.
So we had 5 losses, yet I'm almost positive we had the number 2 defense in the country. That is.
Yep. Well, 2 of those 5 losses we lost.
Actually unheard of.
Iowa State 10-7, Illinois 9-3.
That's what I'm saying.
Or 9-6.
Hey. That's a great point. And like you said, the defense doesn't have to be as good as they were last year, but they actually still might play as well as they did last year, in terms of just like not having to be out on the field 50 or more % of the time. Maybe they're only out on the field 40% of the time, or whatever it is. I don't know the numbers, but it's like you stay fresher. Yeah, you're gonna play better. Like that.
Exactly.
Think of our offense. Like we talked about it. It's like if we had a decent offense last year, sky's the limit. So that's the same could be said about this upcoming season. I do believe that. I think our defense could be really good again.
Yeah, there's not many, and we talked about this, there's not many holes. You got defense line, you got Nick Jackson coming in at linebacker. Secondary is good as long as we stay healthy. And then, hopefully our offense is a tad bit better, hopefully a lot better, but where, you don't have to rely on them so much. So one last thing I want to talk about here, just because I saw this on the news and I was like, what are we doing? Michigan State, Penn State game, last game of the year. It's not a big deal because we're not fans of those, but like, why is, and this is considered a home game for Penn State. They are playing in Detroit, and from what I read, it's because they don't want to play a night game in November.
It's a home game for Penn State?
Yes, and it's senior night for them. But they're playing in Detroit on Black Friday, and it's from the sounds is because they don't want to play a night game outside in November. So they're bringing it to Detroit, which is a dome. And it's a home game for Penn State, or for Michigan State. Excuse me. Did I say Penn State right away? I meant Michigan State.
Yeah.
So
that's what I.
Okay. So yes, the home game for Michigan State.
Correct. Yes. Okay. Because I was gonna be like, what? But yes. So I was reading up a little bit on it too, and I think you're right. They don't want to play like a night game in November, whatever. But that makes zero freaking sense to me. It's a home game. Play it at home. and it's senior night. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, senior night.
That's wild. Yeah, that's wild to me. You're giving Penn State every advantage now.
Yeah.
That makes zero sense. That's
Chris Hassel made a good. Chris Hassel said I was listening to his podcast with Chris Williams. It's like Iowa. It's like them moving the Iowa Penn State game to Philadelphia or Pittsburgh. I mean, yes, there's still gonna be more Penn State fans there, but it's not gonna be the same.
No, it's a different environment for both teams, and it's the same weekend. I was reading too. It's like the same weekend, so it's like the Packers play at Detroit. They have like the state high school championships that weekend. It's like a 4-day event, and then now they've moved that game, the Michigan State Penn State game, to Ford Field as well. I don't know, man.
It makes zero sense.
That is just bananas.
And now, they only have 6 home games now, technically.
Yep.
Their last, so I'm looking at their schedule right now. They play Nebraska at home November 4th, at home, like at their actual stadium. That's the last game of the season at their home stadium, because they play at Ohio State, at Indiana, and then they play, Penn State neutral site.
Wow. Yeah, that's insane.
It's so dumb.
I don't have any logical explanation
if I was a Michigan State fan, I'd be so pissed. Like that would literally be like
now Iowa. I have to travel to Detroit.
Yeah.
And I don't know how far away East Lansing from Detroit is. I don't have that in front of me. But I mean that's not even like what advantage does that really give you? It just doesn't. To me, I don't know.
No, and for Penn State fans, like that might be a game now. They're like, let's go for a weekend.
Yeah,
Detroit, night. It's gonna be in the
dome. Implications for a Big Ten championship? Maybe, I don't know. Like, have to win that game. Like, okay, let's send everybody to Ford Field now. Like that. Wow,
that's legitly like, okay. Iowa's last home game is like November 18th, and we play Illinois. Be like us being like, well, we don't want to play at night, so we're gonna our night in November, so we're gonna move that game to Minneapolis because that's a dome, and we're gonna play there. We're gonna play Illinois in a dome in Minneapolis.
Yeah,
we don't want to play it. It just makes zero sense. And obviously, yes, and now they have to cater to these networks. NBC, they're a big thing for us now. They want that game to be a night game on Black Friday, and then Michigan State doesn't want to play at home night game. So, okay, let's move it to Detroit so it's at least a dome. Like, what? A bad move, I think.
Because of the weather or what?
I don't know.
It's a home game.
It gets cold in November.
You know what? You're Michigan. You played night games or whatever in November for your entire history of your program. Why
Big Ten, if you really look at like last how many years, we rarely there's very rare night games in November. Okay. But what's funny is, okay, so you don't have a night game in November, but there's still a lot of 2:30 games in November, and by then, especially after daylight savings times, it gets night at like 4:30. So by the second or dark, halftime, it is dark. So what is the difference?
So you're worried about it being too cold? Is that what we're talking about here?
That's the major reason, yeah.
Well,
but like I said, 2:30 games are just like a night game.
Good luck to Michigan State. I hope it turns out well for you.
Yeah.
That is crazy to me. Yeah. It made no sense when I read that. I was like, but it's their home game. Like, I don't know. Crazy.
Speaking of Black Friday, I'm going to be surprised what time they have Iowa-Nebraska game, just because there's going to be a lot of competition that day now with
there is.
Fell playing that day.
Yeah. NFL game.
Yep.
Now you got
Michigan Penn State.
Michigan State night game. Yeah. So, yeah, I'll be curious. Probably. I don't know.
We play one CBS game. I'm still hoping that we get one NBC game this year, because I just think it'd be cool to play on NBC. And then you already know we're going to get at least one, which actually maybe not this year, because like our schedule, like I don't know who it would be, but like big noon kickoff, which I just hate. I mean, I love Gus Johnson and Joe Klatt. Like I love them, but I hate big.
But we don't get to enjoy it. Well, and if it's a home,
if it's away, if it's an away game, we can enjoy it.
We can enjoy it.
Which honestly, if it's an away game, like I'm all for it.
Right.
whatever game.
Yep.
But you just look at their Iowa schedule. Well, actually, you know what? It could be that Wisconsin game on October 14th. Especially
It
if
could,
Wisconsin's looking good. If we're maybe only have one loss, it's a big game.
depending on who else is on the slate in terms of Big Ten opponents, because I
Yeah.
know they always try to pick the biggest and best matchups. But
Penn State game is going to be our hardest game, but I think the biggest game of the year is the Wisconsin game because I think that's going to really determine.
100%.
Because you look at Wisconsin's schedule, man, like their schedule is freaking easy. I don't know, they do have to
Yeah.
play Ohio State, but the rest of their schedule, and we'll examine this as we get closer,
Yeah.
pretty damn easy. Where that Iowa game, like if you're talking like head-to-head wins, because you might need it, because Wisconsin might only finish with 1 or 2 losses. Well, you need that head-to-head win to owe the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
So that game is huge. I wish that game was at home this year. I really do. But
I know.
But hey, Cade went in there 2021, did the deal. So hopefully he can do it.
Cade went into Penn State too.
He did 2021. Yep.
Did the cheese. So hey, he's fearless.
Hopefully that happens. And Iowa right now is up. Looks like they're on their way to they're up 5-0. One more inning left. On their way to hopefully the championship game tomorrow.
Nice.
So, but yeah, well, that will wrap it up for this episode. Solid hour or close to an hour at least. And we'll see what this brings us, how it takes us. Might do another one.
Yeah.
Coming up.
We just gotta see what other news comes out. I mean, if there's plenty of things to talk about, or we kind of just have that urge to hop on the pod and talk some more Iowa football, we definitely will. I mean,
if not, then
a waiting game.
Yeah, now we'll just wait till July 26th, which it will be here before you know it. Hell, we recorded one 3 weeks ago, and now it's May 6th, and it's like, oh my God, it's already the end of May, and before you know it's June. And June's going to be very tough to maybe do one just because I've a lot of stuff going on. I know you have some stuff going on too, but in July might be, I don't know. We'll just have to see. I mean, if there's a weekend in there where it's like, okay, let's produce one. We got some things to talk about. I will be starting summer workouts here. I don't know if it's probably not this week, but probably the week after they start summer workouts. So they're, you got some guys coming on campus now. Nick Jackson, Caleb Brown will be back. I mean, they all have to wait until summer workouts to come. So like there might be topics about that. We'll just have to wait and see. So if not, we'll see you guys all on July 26th. So, all right, Tyler. Well, you have a good rest of your weekend. Happy Memorial Day. And we'll talk to you later.
Go Hawks.